Hey everybody, and welcome yet again to another episode of Unveiling Beauty. I am Ammon Carver, and unfortunately, once again, flying solo as your host today. But I feel very confident that I'm going to keep you guys engaged and entertained because today's topic is called Keeping Up with Kenra. Some of my favorite artists belong and work with the Kenra brand, and I can't wait for us to deep dive into what they are doing. But before we jump right into it, I want to remind you guys that we have been building some really cool stuff in addition to what we're doing with these broadcast lives on Facebook. So we now have an Unveiling Beauty YouTube channel where you can go and subscribe and watch all the other previous episodes, as well as we have been building an Unveiling Beauty Instagram page where we'll be able to archive and really put nice IGT-sized snippets of those episodes for you guys to watch, short and sweet and right to the point, for all the valuable techniques and tricks that we've been providing on the show all the way since March. I cannot believe it. I feel like we're almost on episode 50, but it's fantastic, and we've been getting some great reviews, and it's nice that we're now spreading that out, making it available for you guys as a resource ongoing. But let's get with today's episode because it's going to be an exciting one, and I don't want to waste any time. Our first guest today her name is Kelly Murphy, and she's the Regional Education Manager for Kenra. Kelly, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, I would love to hear from your perspective, like, what is the culture like at Kenra, and what do our audience members that maybe aren't as familiar with the brand need to know about Kenra?
Absolutely. So Kenra truly is an amazing company, and I'm super thankful to be a part of the team. If I had to summarize Kenra in one word, I think it would really be relationships. So whether that is relationships with our clients, our stylists, and amongst the Kenra team, we really pride ourselves in the connections that we do make as a Kenra professional brand. So we really pride ourselves again on, the products that we put out there, the education that we put out there, and then those relationships that we build again with our customers. So I did have a really unique journey with Kenra. So I think that really helps embody this whole relationship idea. I actually got my first connection with Kenra through beauty school. I attended a beauty school in Ohio that uses all Kenra color, all Kenra products, and we received education really early in our start with the program, and I knew instantly that's exactly where I wanted to be in the future. Upon graduation, I began working at a fully branded Kenra salon. Really wanted to stick with Kenra, and I worked on mastering the color, mastering the products, and gaining as much industry knowledge as I could. And then a couple years later, I joined the full-time team as an educator, and I really can't imagine myself anywhere else, and Kenra to me really does feel like home.
I can relate to that feeling and that need that gets, it's inside you, right? It kind of pulls you to a specific brand, or to, when you find like-minded people or a brand that really resonates with you, it's really kind of like, I need to be part of that group. I love them so much. So I can very much relate to that part of your story. Let's talk today about what you plan to share with us in terms of hair.
Yeah.
What technique are you going to show us?
Today, I want to focus on low maintenance styles. So I have gone ahead and done 2 different types of braided sets. I think this is a really good time for us to maybe take a little break, take it a little easy on our hair. So I wanted to show you guys some ways that I like to do no heat styling using some of my favorite Kenra products. So I have gone ahead and prepped my mannequin with the Nitro Memory Cream on the right side, and I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that in a second. And then I've done a traditional 2-stranded rope braid. And then on the left side, I prepped with the air dry cream and a traditional 3-stranded braid. So with the rope braid, I'm going to get more of like a twist out kind of curl effect. And with the 3-stranded braid, I'm going to get more of that beach wave. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in and start doing some final touches and show you guys the result.
So while you're doing that, just talk to me a little bit about 2 questions for you. I'm going to throw them at you while you're doing this, okay? So let's keep you on your toes. So the first one is, did you apply these while they were wet and then put them in and she kind of slept in them? And would she sleep in them just like that? Do you recommend she puts them up in a bonnet to keep it from frizzing? I'll start there.
So yes, I did apply the products when they were wet. But I did let the hair dry a little bit before I went ahead and did the braided set. And then I mean, if you feel like your hair is a little bit more frizz prone, I would definitely suggest doing some kind of like a sleep cap or a bonnet. For myself, I usually just kind of flip the hair up if I am sleeping in this set. This is also a great set to do when you maybe are just kind of hanging out at home and you have to leave. You just want to do a quick set for about 3 or so hours. So you can just kind of let that free hang. This is more of a lived in kind of undone style.
Right.
So I think it's great to not like overthink it and just kind of let the hair be the hair.
So pause right there really quickly, because I know you did 2 different sets, and I want to make sure we have you lift up the mannequin to show the result of the difference, but also you chose to use 2 different products, right, for a different result. So not only are you talking about a wave formation, one that was a braid, one's a twist, but also different products on the same hair type. So we should really have a good visual of like why you chose those 2. So get up nice and close and show us that curl formation and talk to us about the benefits of choosing which product over the other.
Absolutely. So on the right side with the twist out section, I did the Nitro Memory Cream. So the Nitro Memory Cream is a great product for extending the life of a style. So it gives up to 3 days of style memory. This is actually the first nitrogen propelled professional hair care product on the market. So what that means again is that it's going to help lock in the style, and it's going to give that really nice long style memory. So this is a great product if you are wanting to sleep overnight in this style. It's really going to help lock in that memory from the braided that we did.
That looks very natural, beachy. Yeah.
Let's switch sides to the braid and let that go real fast.
And would you ever you would probably commit to one type, right? If you were going to do a whole head, like either do braids or don't do like what you're showing right now. You're giving us 2 different examples so you can see results. But the point for people watching is that you choose one that you like and do it on both sides.
2 different finishes with 2 different types of braids. Yeah, exactly.
How easy.
I would suggest undoing these braids just with your fingers. If you would like to, you could use a wide tooth comb, but I definitely prefer just the natural touches of the hand rather than trying to brush through. That can lead to frizz and whatnot.
So the ripples are a lot more defined there. So what would you consider, like, what would you say is like the secret to a successful braided set?
The secret to a successful braided set, I would say, is to not do this on stopping wet hair. Let that hair dry to about 50%. That dampness in the hair mixed with the products that you apply is going to give you a much more successful set versus, again, that sopping wet set. For one, if you do it on sopping wet hair, it's probably not going to be dry by the morning, so you're really not going to get that definition you're looking for. And also on wet hair, the hair is at a more vulnerable state, at its highest elastic state. So manipulating it, braiding it into some sort of texture can actually lead to a little bit of damage. So again, best at about 50% dry.
50% dry. Sounds good. Okay, so now what about finessing it, zhuzhing it, finishing it up? What tips do you have for us for the finesse?
Absolutely. So I actually love to reach for my flat iron just to kind of do a little bit of touch up if need be. Sometimes, you can have that perfect set that doesn't need any additional touching up, but in occasion we do need to smooth some flyaways, maybe touch up some pieces around the face. So I traditionally like to reach for my flat iron to do so. If I do any kind of touch-ups with a flat iron, I keep it very, very, very minimal. Again, this is a very undone, like natural-looking style, so we don't want to over-polish it. So for the twist outside, I love to just reach for my flat iron and do a traditional kind of wrap with my iron and maybe just add a little bit of extra curl. And that might just be in between a couple different twists just to give some different definition and some extra volume. You can see it was a little kinked up here, so this is a great area for me just to kind of polish again with my flat iron.
Yeah, I like the way you're speaking to that too, and also because I think the guest that's going to try to take advantage of these like overnight sets is the guest who's trying to probably avoid using a heat styling tool for a purpose, right?
Absolutely.
They're like, okay, I've been burning my hair off. How can I get that cool wave without using that iron in my hair every day, right?
Absolutely.
So that's a good tip, but also at the same time, it doesn't mean that they can't do a quick little fix if the set didn't land exactly, right?
Yeah, especially on the braided side, I feel like that can be an area that does have maybe a little bit more frizz, or you get some maybe areas that just are a little kinked. This is a great way to go in with your flat iron. If you just rock the flat iron back and forth, you can actually mimic that same type of wave pattern that you receive from the braids. So just a really easy way to polish, no extra tools necessary. Flat iron does it all.
So I'm going to have you actually hold that mannequin up, kind of face it so we can get a real good look at kind of both sides and the different finishes after you've now finessed it. And we can see the different products. One's significantly more natural. The other one, the curl formation, is definitely more like regular and shapely. Well done. Very nicely done. Thank you so much for being on Unveiling Beauty today and for giving us a little sneak peek into some very awesome, very usable styles that I think a lot of girls or a lot of people with long hair will be able to use, and for the tips on which products they should be using. Anything else you'd like to say to all of our viewers before we say goodbye? This is your chance.
Thank you guys all for having me today. I'm really excited to be here and excited to share my love for Kenra.
Thanks so much, Kelly. You're doing great.
Bye.
All right, you guys. So that was Kelly. She did a fantastic job. I think that's those little two styles are very comparable. I love the fact that she was able to give you some good tips for a couple of different ways that you could wear your hair and the products that help support those looks. Coming up next, Mr. David Lopez is a master. He's going to share with us not only on textured hair, but on smoother hair, I think, some other things that we like to love and some of his love for the Kenra family. So David, what's up, my friend? Welcome back to the show.
I mean, this is episode, I lost count, but I will say it's always so great to see your face and be here with everyone. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to be here. I'm enjoying these shows more and more. I mean, it does feel sometimes when you count them, you go a little cross-eyed, but for overall, I've had such a great time because it's given us an excuse to stay really in contact with you guys and to talk about, what's relevant to share with people right now. And I thought this episode was a great one because I know you're such a fan of the Kenra products. You mentioned them a lot on your social media. And so I thought, what a great opportunity for you to, since you do enjoy using so many of them, just put them into a full circle, keeping up with Kenra and see where we go from there. So talk to us about your first look and what you plan on doing.
Okay, so Kenra is a brand I've been using for almost 8 years now. I actually first got hired by them to shoot a campaign. I had never worked with the brand before. And when they brought all the products aside, I fell in love. So 8 years later, I'm still obsessed, still using it in my kit on all my celebrity clients and all my work. But what I really love about Kenra is that it's really high effective products. So what it's supposed to do, it's going to do, including with textured hair, which might surprise some people. So the first thing I want to get into is a twist out set on textured hair. This is a great set to do for your clients that have anywhere from 3C to 4C texture. It takes the texture that typically has a harder time getting a full coil or a full curl definition and makes it just feel a little bit more elongated and more purposeful. So I'm going to jump into it. You ready?
Go. Let's do it.
So the first thing you want to do, because this mannequin's already been done, you want to make sure that you're starting this on damp hair. Unlike Kelly's set, which is for a different texture type, I really like to make sure that before I twist the hair is as damp as possible. And I've already pre-stretched it out with my paddle brush to make sure it's really nicely detangled. There are other ways you can do this where you can pre-stretch dry, put the cream in and twist it, but I'm just doing a very traditional wrap twist set. So I comb the product through very wet. And the first thing I put in, this is a modified lock method. So really lotion, oil, and cream. The first thing I'm going to do instead of a lotion is going to be the Curl Glaze Mousse. This is a secret star in the product portfolio. So many curly people that I put this onto are obsessed with it. It comes out like a mousse, but then when you put your hands through it, it has like this weird, I don't want to say weird, but like this really interesting.
It's magic.
Gel texture. It's really interesting. So I'm going to emulsify that through the hair with my fingers, get it really nice and smooth. And when you're working with textured hair, one of the things that I talk about a lot with texture, because I have textured hair, I've been working with it for so long, you have to get used to the way it feels in your hand, and you want to feel a lot of slip. You want to make sure you're not feeling any sort of like tangles or any knots. You want it to feel as smooth as possible. So that's going to be our first step. And then the fine tooth comb is another thing that I really rely on to really make sure I get it really nice and smooth. See how nice and shiny and reflective it is? That's letting me know there's a lot of product in it. I'm actually going to make it a little bit more wet. And like Kelly was saying before, when the hair is wet, it's actually a little bit more elastic, which for a lot of textures means it's a little bit more fragile. But for this, we are relying on that elasticity that happens when the hair is wet to give us that stretch. So for me, the more wet it is when I do this, the more strong that set is going to be. Next up, I'm going to put in the silkening gloss, so the oil. And this is from Kenra Platinum. This is a really beautiful oil because it's really thick. It's almost serum-like texture. Let's see if I can get it to show. So you see it's not even dripping down my hand. So it's beautiful for sets like this. I also love it for onset finishing as well, just because it does have a little bit of that weight to it. And then I brush that through.
David, what's the average size of the section that you're working on right now?
So that's completely up to you. What I always say is that the bigger the curl that you want to see, the bigger the section. Okay. So if you do take 1-inch squares, for example, you will still get a very tiny curl. The point is that you want to stretch out that natural curl pattern and sometimes that micro texture that happens in the middle. So in the back here, this was actually just 4 sections. So you see how much that texture still wants to revert. So for me, I really prefer to take really big sections, really nice and smooth, really wet, make sure it gets really dry, and then I get that really beautiful coil effect. So the smaller the section, the tighter the curl, the bigger the section, the bigger the curl.
Good.
Then one of the last things I'm going to use is the Luxe One leave-in. It's a leave-in spray, like a leave-in conditioner, but it's really interesting because it comes out like a cream. So it's, for most hair types, like fine medium hair, 1 pump is enough, but I really love how much slip this gives, and it has a little bit of a hold to it as well. So this is going to be the last product that I'm going to smooth through. And this gives so much shine. So these 3 products together are going to give you the most perfect, beautiful finish. And then last thing, I want to comb through that section, make sure it's really nice and smooth. And then the fun part, we're going to split it down the middle. You want to make sure you get it as even as possible. Both sections are as even as possible. And then as I'm twisting, I'm turning the section into itself, really nice and tight. I'm getting it really tight in there. So you see how big that section was, how small the twist is? So this is going to give me a little bit tighter curl.
Are you able to get that any closer by chance, or we can get?
Absolutely, I can. Okay. Now, as I'm working, what I'm going to do, if I feel like there's some tangles happening, I want to keep that as smooth as possible. So I keep my comb handy and I comb that back through just to make sure that it stays really nice and smooth. So I'm really twisting it, really twisting it. Same, I can start to feel like there might be some tangles happening because I just want it to be, again, as smooth as possible.
So when they finish that section, it should look like a rope, yeah?
It should look like a rope
because of the way you've twisted it, yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know if you can tell, but in real life where I am, I'm twisting it so tight that you can actually see the product kind of pushing out. You want to see that. Like you want to visibly see the product on the hair. Then when I get to the end, I'm going to comb that together. I'm going to hold it, pinching it, and I'm going to give it a nice twist. So just keep twisting it around your finger. I just keep twisting and twisting and twisting until I feel like it creates a nice curl, and then it stays. And so that's how your twist should look. It shouldn't, when you release it, puff back out. If it puffs back out, you don't have enough product and it's not wet enough. You really want it to lock into itself.
That's a good tip.
Okay, so once you let it air dry, you untwist it, and now you can see the beautiful texture that we got here. So now we have this really beautiful defined texture. If you're familiar with this mannequin, you know that it does have a really nice, beautiful micro texture, not a ton of definition at times. And this just gave me this really beautiful elongated effect. I'm gonna just isolate one of these curls so you can see. And I did smaller curls around the face. So you can see how that gives me that really nice S shape.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Where typically this would shrink up a lot. And it just gave me that elongation. So I just really pulled this down and gave me a really beautiful finish. So those 3 products are my go-tos for twist outs. I love them. The hair is left with so much shine, but also the products working together give me a lot of slip and workability. So it makes the whole experience just that much easier.
Love it. Well, listen, so you're also not only like curl texture master, but you're a master on set with styling and finishing. In fact, it's one of my favorite. When we get to work on set, it's like that's like magic time. I love it. So, why don't you share with us some tips on your favorite go-to products when it comes to on-set styling and some little tricks that our viewers can take back when it comes to that area of your expertise.
Well, you and I are so similar in how we touch hair. I remember one of the first times we worked on set together, the way that I touched the hair, you were like, yes, that's how I know. That's how I know. Yeah. Because it's such a delicate touch, and we rely on products in a very smart way to give us that lift and that fullness. The one that I've really been using is the volumizing spray clay from Kenra. It's brand new, has a hold level of 15. So across the brand, you're going to see a number here. What that means is just going to have a hold level. So the highest we go to is 30. Obviously, 1 or nothing is no hold whatsoever. So it's actually a pretty high hold for a texturizing product. And this is so great for set because you can take something like this that's really beautiful, done beautifully, and you can start lifting it out and creating that really exaggerated shape that you and I both love. It just feels a little bit more aspirational and pulled together. Like, this is really pretty, but how do we then take that and make it feel a little more aspirational? So what I do a lot of times with my clients or with the models, I have them tilt over to the side just to open up that hair, which means I don't have to touch it as much. I can still keep that nice smoothness. We're going to take the volumizing spray clay. I want to show you. So a lot of times with products, with brands, when they build a spray, any sort of aerosol product, this top is called an actuator. So really what that's doing is helping to get that right amount of product onto the hair. So one thing you need to know, and I always test with a new product, is I want to see where it stops. That's going to be the optimal performance for you. Any closer, it's going to be a little more of a hold. Closer, with a texturizing product, you're going to see more of a white cast. So I want to make sure I'm keeping as far away as possible, not too far that I don't see any of the results, but I want to be somewhere in here where I'm going to get the results, but not get that white cast that you typically get from perhaps a dry texturizing or a clay product. So something to keep in mind. So my model's tilted over. I'm going to take my fingers. I'm just going to gently ruffle it out, and I'm going to spray that product and just hold it out. This is going to give me a really nice buildable texture that then throughout the rest of the day and while I'm on set, I can really keep applying this, and it just gives me a nice dried out feeling to the hair. So sometimes hairspray provides a little too much stick. So this for me is a great prerequisite to the hairspray. So I work with this first, and then I can lock it in with the hairspray.
It's making me nostalgic. I was just going to say, I'm watching you spray, and I'm like, oh, I miss our like photo shoot days and being able to create that magic. And especially right now, we've got this great Ulta Beauty fall campaign that is in the stores, even though some of the stores, are only partially open whatsoever. But we shoot those so long ago, and you forget about them for a minute, and then they show up, and now they're in the stores, and it's so beautiful. And it just made me miss being on set with you guys and creating, and even just those little spritzes right now with you lifting the hair, I'm like, oh my gosh.
It's always the best part, just the little final touches of like seeing everything come to life.
Yeah, bringing it all together.
And it's always, it's so fun to watch you too. Like there's something really joyful about watching you like do this motion too. It's like, we're just like so finessed. But again, we both rely on really good products that allow us to have that workability, that manageability, to start building out a style, make it feel more aspirational, but still feel livable and really much like something that anyone can wear.
No. I think the cool part is watching you do it. Like, these are not just on-set tips, right? So like these are tips that like anybody that's working behind the chair, just because of the world that we're living in right now, like, building that grid on Instagram or whatever it is that's kind of become your like visual calling card. It relies on a lot of these techniques to make sure that you get that photo that has that extra energy. Right. You can do such great salon hair, but sometimes a little lift, a little like fan, whatever it is that just gives it energy can be the difference between something that somebody scrolls past and something that like takes somebody's breath away as they're looking right on the feed. And you've really you're like the master at like capturing those moments. I challenge anybody who hasn't been watching David or following David to go follow David, because you will learn a lot about how to capture the perfect photo.
Well, anything like this, I mean, especially with this technique and the product and the volumizing spray clay, it's so good because it does allow you to capture that really beautiful, like this is before and this is really pretty and you could take a photo of it and it looks great.
Yeah.
But something about getting that almost like lived in feel that just still feels really purposeful, not that you just messed it up with your hands. And it just stays there because now I don't have to touch the hair as much to get it to do what I want it to do. And now I can just take a fan and then as I'm taking the photo, just give it a little bit of a waft. And I have that really beautiful lift out effect. So you see the difference between this side and this side. This is not blowing as much, but once you start building in that texture, look how much more lift and shape you start to see. I mean, listen, I know we love visual on set, but you can still utilize the same techniques behind the chair as well.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I made sure that was something that everybody that's watching that may not be a session stylist or even have aspirations of being an on-set stylist, super relevant still, right behind the chair, super relevant to them being able to get that good picture that represents their work well, because at the end of the day, that's where we're at. It's the name of the game these days. All right, so hairstyle number 2, buddy. What do we got?
So this is just, again, showing how you amp up a ponytail. I think a lot of times, especially if you're watching, you want to try something on yourself, you're not going to be up there with your hands up, teasing your ponytail, trying to get that volume, because a lot of us are home and a lot of people are putting their hair up more often. They're kind of like, I don't really want to take the time to do my hair, or maybe I did it on Monday and by Friday, which is, at the end of the week, you've worn all the different styles and you want to be like, you know what, I want to pull my hair up, but I still want to feel kind of put together. I have a Zoom later. I'm probably going to see a friend for a socially distanced drink if you're in New York. And so you want to make sure that you still have it up. So what better way than to provide a nice sleek ponytail, utilize those natural oils, get it really nice and sleek, and then use something like the volumizing spray clay, same product I used there, just to start amping up that ponytail and give it that lift so it feels fresh and purposeful at the same time. And look how much lift we get out of it right away.
Yeah, amazing. Very quick, very easy. They look great, David. As per usual, no surprise there. Just wanted to make sure I took a second and gave you a big thank you. I know that you spend a lot of time getting ready, whether it's for today's episode or for other episodes that we've got going on that I'm not going to talk about right now, spoiler alert, but you spend a lot of time and investment in making sure the content that you have to share is of value. And I know that our audience members appreciate it, but I just wanted to say personally, thank you so much for always showing up and being like a really great example of who we are at Ulta Beauty and the Pro Team. And I'm sure Kenra doesn't mind you talking a little bit of love about how much you love them today, because you represented to the team, man.
Thank you so much. I miss you guys so much. And I know that if you're going to play with these products, you're going to love them as much as I do. And I'm so excited for honestly, we've been talking, there's some surprises coming up, but I'm so excited for what I have to share with everyone from Ulta, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it. So.
Me too. I was like, stop talking. No leaks. No leaks. All right, David, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, buddy.
Bye.
You guys, what a fantastic episode. I always love working with David and learning all the tricks and stuff that are in his creative brain. And also what a wonderful opportunity for us to meet another member of the Kenra team and just understand what the brand is about even more so. So great tips. Hope you guys are writing them down. Don't forget, like I said, there's other places where if you missed an episode, you can watch it again here, or you can go to our YouTube channel. But that's it for our episode today, sadly. I know there was lots of good content for all of you out there. But coming up next, we have Brilliant Blondes with none other than Sonia Dove and Brianna Cisneros. So until then, I hope you guys stay well. Remember that any of the products that were mentioned on today's show will be at the bottom of the screen, of the feed, so you can go ahead and click on and buy those and have that beautiful hair that you learned today. That's it from me. Next time, hopefully, I will be joined by my co-host. But thank you guys for enduring it with me today. And for that, that's another episode of Unveiling Beauty. See you guys soon.